Item 8A, Hines Development Agreement, Decision on Referendum. We have 35 requests to speak.
Okay, so we'll begin with the staff report. So we turn to the City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, in February, Council adopted Ordinance Number 2454, which is a development agreement with Hines 26th Street LLC. That development agreement authorizes the construction of a large, predominantly commercial project at 1681 26th. On March 11th, a referendum petition was filed with the City Clerk protesting adoption of the ordinance. And on April 22nd, the clerk reported to Council that the measure had qualified for the ballot. Because the measure qualified for the ballot, the California Elections Code requires that Council either repeal the ordinance in its entirety or submit it to the voters, either at the next general election or at a special election. Our recommendation for you tonight is that if you opt to submit the matter to the voters, that you do so at the November election in order to save the city unnecessary expense. That concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the City Attorney? Okay, if not, we will open the public input portion of the item now that I have the cards. So, okay, so I will I'll read a few names so folks could line up. And in case somebody is in the, not in the room, don't run, just come on up and we'll call your name again, so don't worry. It's not as if you only get one chance. So the first speakers, we have a pair. We have Nancy Morse, who is here. Good. And we have Nancy and Diana Gordon. And so that will be 4 minutes from Ms. Gordon. And following that, you don't need to get up yet because it's 4 minutes. But keep in mind that after Ms. Gordon is Armin Melkonians, and after that, Denise Spartan. So we'll begin with Ms. Gordon.
Good evening, Diana Gordon, speaking on behalf of the Santa Monica Coalition for a Livable City. Tonight is about much more than a referendum. It's a no-confidence vote of residents over your decision about this site's future. It's about a failed planning process, giving Hines a green light to build one of the biggest projects in the city's history without community input. It's about an erosion of trust between residents and the city, where serious, legitimate, repeated concerns about the many negative and unacceptable impacts of this project were ignored for years. An erosion of trust when developers, their lobbyists, and lawyers finance campaigns for council members who then vote on their projects. This is what led to an unprecedented coalition of every group in this city united in opposition to a bad project. I'm here to tell you tonight that the city needs to start over with a real community process, with a new development application, with an adequate EIR, and something that actually results in what the law requires, an environmentally superior project. There's talk, as there always is in a community of our size, that Hines wants you to revoke tonight to keep the referendum off the ballot and then come back in some short period of time with Son of Hines, sort of a zombie move where before the election, again, we have a slim majority approving a project without going to the Planning Commission and without the input of the community. A slightly reduced project that nibbles around the edges, nothing that would substantially reduce the 7,000 new car trips or trigger further environmental review. In essence, another backroom deal that would again exclude residents and again give Hines what it wants. This entire concept, if possible, is repugnant. It's repellent. It would thwart a democratic process. It would rob residents of input, and it would rob them of the right to vote on any Hines project in November. It would roil our community like it has never been roiled before. And the erosion of trust would be complete. Face it, you have lost residents' confidence to decide this site's fate. A new council will need to do that, starting over after November. Tonight I'm asking you to tell everyone in this room and everyone that's watching clearly that you do not intend to revoke this ordinance and then ask staff to bring Son of Hines to you before the election. Or, if you are not prepared to tell us that tonight, then put it on the ballot. The residents of this city deserve a democratic referendum on this project. It's the right thing to do. It's the honorable thing to do. And finally, residents' voices need to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have to go over the rules. Okay, guys. Okay, we're ready to go over the rules. Right, now, see, we have the folks in the back of the room who are waving this way. So there's no applause, no negative jeering, because, we have a community that has lots of opinions, wide range of opinions, and folks and take on things. So we always want to have a level playing field. So we ask you not to applaud. If you do applaud, we will ask you to leave the room, because if you have that exuberance and you want to express it, certainly sit outside. We have the monitors on, etc., so that people can follow the meetings. But when you're in here, we need to have the courteous, quiet demeanor going on. So we thank you for working with us on that. So next, our speaker is Armin Melkonians, who will be followed by Denise Spartan, and after that, Jerry Rubin.
Hi, my name is Armin Melkonians. I'm the founder of Residocracy and the proponent of this referendum, which gathered approximately 15,000 signatures. Now, I want to say 15,000 because we at Residocracy, we rejected about 1,000 of those ourselves that did not qualify. They came in unattached to the referendum petition. I also want to point out that we did all this in 19 days. And so tonight in front of you, you have two choices. One, to send it to the ballot, or two, to rescind your prior decision for the approval of this project. Typically in a referendum situation, 10% of the voter signatures are required. And I just want to point out that we got over 20% of the registered voters to sign this petition. So to me, that's a clear message that this project should not go to the ballot. I think that at this time, the proper thing to do is to act as our representatives, to listen to the people, and to reject this project tonight, and not put it up to the ballot. I just wanted to ask everyone in this room what 13,000 or 15,000 signatures means to them individually. So please think about that as you make up your mind tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Next we have, okay, if you want to applaud, I mean, really, you will be asked to leave. So, I mean, you don't have to leave City Hall. You just have to leave the room, and you can go applaud outside the doors. Denise Spartan, followed by Jerry Rubin, and then Ken Robin.
Good evening. I'm here tonight, signed and got signatures for the petition because I love Santa Monica. Thank you to Residocracy for helping the residents save our city from irresponsible overdevelopment. Although I really dislike the money-making pit and machine to financially benefit the city that you are trying to make Santa Monica into, with total disregard to the deterioration and quality of life for existing residents. I'm sorry, I thought as elected officials you were supposed to be representing the residents' wishes who elected you, but you choose to mislead the residents from the beginning on the facts, from everything from the significantly inflated daily riderships on the Pamela Carter's pet project, the Metro Expo line so you could rationalize more irresponsible development, to new car trips for Bergamot Station. Then when it was on the agenda, because there were over 100 people signed up to speak on the item, you made it take as long as possible to get to the item. In my opinion, it disincentivized residents to stay and speak. Then after all the residents and community groups spoke out against it, you voted for it, just so you fully understand how we got here. In reference to the mini-mob members who approved the project, Pam O'Connor, Bob Holbrook, Gleam Davis, and Terry O'Day, you are not representing the will of the resident voters. You are representing your own personal interests. Oh, and how can we forget the present Assemblyman and former Santa Monica City Council mob member Richard Bloom, who thought the best use of taxpayer funds was to have one of his representatives present to plead for the project's approval. In ending, I do hope this time you listen to the residents and rescind this project. Although you'll probably take your chances and put it on the ballot, at least that's the way David Martin expressed it at the last Planning Commission meeting. But I do hope you show good faith and rescind this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Barton. Next, we have Jerry Rubin, who will be followed by Ken Robin, and it's like Ken Robin and Mary Marlowe. So Ken, you're here? Yeah. Okay, Ken, you can sit down, and Mary will be the speaker after you. We just checked that you're both here, and then after that they'll have 4 minutes, and after that will be Tricia Crane. Okay. So thank you, and Mr. Robin, you can sit down if you want. You don't have to remain standing. Thank you. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor, council members, Jerry Rubin, Santa Monica. Well, I said this the last time, people have a right to petition, but I don't think it was the best thing. And it puts the council in a hard position. I think this endeavor is not fitting of the good process that we've had on so many endeavors for so many, many years. It's been a 7-year process with dozens of community meetings and forums and city staff listening to all sides of the issue. A project that started and got better and better and better. There'll always be some that think it's not perfect, but it was a process, a democratic process. And now you're being forced into making a hard choice. There are paid organizers out there, the Huntley Hotel. The 18-story non-union Huntley Hotel put in $10,000 to help get some of these signatures. I don't think that's very collegial. I don't know how people will vote if it's on the ballot, but you're between a rock and a hard place now. And that's very, very unfair for the group residocracy to do that. We're all concerned about a lot of challenges in the city. I take the blue bus. We get around okay. There's always traffic problems, certain times of day in every city in America. But we can get people out of the cars. If this is rescinded, I've heard that the developer could do a project with the paper-made site that wouldn't have any affordable housing, any community benefits whatsoever, no transportation management plan.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
that is
Rubin.
not acceptable.
Your time is up,
Thank you.
Mr. Rubin. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Mary Marlowe, who was with Ken Robin. Mary will have 4 minutes, and after that, we have Tricia Crane, and after that will be John Petz. Okay, welcome.
Good evening, Council. My name's Mary Marlowe. I'm an Ocean Park resident, and I also wrote you a letter as chair of the Transparency Group. It isn't often that a council gets a do-over, and that's really what this is. And it's a do-over that was forced by the people you represent, who said, we think you made a mistake, and we think you need to correct it. And that's exactly what we're asking to have happen this evening. I was an active supporter of this. I still am. I think that representative government needs to represent the people that live in a city, and not a planner's idea of how things should be. We hear a lot about transit-oriented development. We think this is transit excuse development. They're using transit as an excuse to build a large office park, and that's just unacceptable to the people of Santa Monica. So we ask you to do the right thing this evening and take a look at rescinding this. If you don't feel you can do that, then please put it on the ballot. We don't want to see it any other way except on the ballot in November or totally rescinded by this council. This is your chance to make it right, and I hope you'll take it. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Tricia Crane, who will be followed by John Petz and then Dolores Sloan.
Good evening. Tonight, City Council will either vote to repeal the Hines DA or to put it on the ballot. The options are plain. Council must rescind or send the matter to the voters. There can be no promises made to Hines of approval if certain conditions are met. As we've seen in the time since the majority of the council members approved the Hines Development Agreement, there's strong opposition far and wide across Santa Monica to this proposed project. Residents are concerned that it's not consistent with loose goals to reduce net new PM trips, instead adding 7,000 more car trips to an already congested area. I'm a member of the advisory board to residocracy.org. We are building our numbers, we are growing, and we feel that we'll have a permanent place in Santa Monica, regardless of what happens tonight. I ask you to rescind this project and show your belief in the community. I can tell you, I stood on street corners with my neighbors and had people stop their cars and run over to me and say, I've been looking for this petition. I want to sign this petition. So we did something actually sort of remarkable, but frankly, amazingly easily, because this community does not support this. So you can do a good thing, you can do something in your political interest, and please rescind this project tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next we have John Petz, who will be followed by Dolores Sloan, and then after that, David Garden.
Good evening. As we all know, this is a jewel of a city. It's not just a jewel for the citizens who live here, but it's a jewel for the entire region. People come here from all over to take a break from density, to take a break from the urban life, and to experience a little bit of what a beach is and what a beachside community is. So a lot of people here are really concerned that what we have going on is a series of developments that are radically transforming the quality of life in a way that we can't recognize what this life is here anymore. As you heard already, community groups from across the city got together and opposed this particular development. But this development, as bad as it is, and it needs to be rescinded, is symptomatic. It was merely the last straw in a long process. 15,000 signatures gathered, some of them turned away by residocracy. That was an easy thing to do, and it happened in 19 days. I was one of the people out gathering signatures, and something I want to point out. There's been discussion about, well, it's older people who care, and the youth all want to see this urbanization of Santa Monica. I saw nothing that could be further from the truth. In my neighborhood, every single young person I talked to, and we're talking the 20s and 30s, signed the petition and loved the opportunity. Tricia Crane just mentioned being chased. I literally had people come out of their homes and chase me down the street because they heard I was gathering signatures. So if any part of you believes that this is just a little group of crackpots or NIMBYs or slow growthers, please disabuse yourself of that notion. This is a really deep set of feelings that runs across the whole community. And what I would just want to say is, I know all of you individually, and I know you care about our town and you do a lot of really great things for our city. Please take good care of us here and help us shepherd our way through this process. Of course there's going to be development in our town, but we want to do it in a way that preserves the fabric of the life we love and keeps Santa Monica a resource for people from around the world and around the region. So please do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Petz. Next we have Dolores Sloan, who will be followed by David Garden, and then Sonia Sultan.
Carol, Armin, Tricia, and the other speakers have presented the substantive subjects very, very well, so I won't do that. I'm going to talk instead about second chances. I'm approaching a birthday of a certain age, and it's making me think a lot about second chances. What would I do if I had another chance to decide whether to get a law degree or whether to go for a doctorate? A whole lot of other things like that, I'm thinking. And you know what? Tonight, you have an opportunity. You have a second chance. You have a chance to undo a great wrong that would happen to this city, that would change its character significantly from a lovely, relatively low-density city with still open vistas. I don't have to dwell on it. There are other speakers who'll do a much better job. But you have a second chance to rescind the decision of this council that started this whole thing. What are you going to do?
And we're going to start by wishing you a happy birthday, Ms. Sloan. Okay. Next we have David Garden, who will be followed by Sonia Sultan, and then Laura Wilson.
Good evening, Council. My name is David Garden. I live in the Ocean Park neighborhood. And I guess, because I know everybody's going to speak about different things, and I've been listening to everybody else speak, I thought that I would discuss the issue of the old versus the young, as somebody else just mentioned, and just the idea of who has history here and who doesn't. And I've lived in the Ocean Park neighborhood, I think now 16 years, so I think I have some history. By no means it's as much as many other people who probably will speak tonight. But I think that that is really critical. And that issue of trying to divide the community between the old and the young, who cares and who doesn't, who's interested in development and who isn't, who's interested in slow growth and who isn't, shouldn't really be, because a lot of the people who are the younger people here do not have history here. They don't or haven't seen what Santa Monica was like 10 years ago and how it has changed. And I understand that change is necessary, but planned change needs to really be thought about, because we have serious issues with traffic in the city. It is hard to get anywhere. You guys obviously know that, but I really don't think that the issue should be divided along the lines of old versus young. And I think that it's a lot of the young people who may get interviewed when they're asked the question just don't have the history. They just don't know what it was like, before. And so I really think this is a very serious issue. I personally am second only to Mr. Phil Brock in gathering signatures. I personally gathered over 200. It was very easy to do. And we did, again, as Armin said, in only 19 days. So there are a lot of people who I represent right here talking to you. And all those people that I spent many, many hours collecting those signatures, mostly in front of the post office, care. And they are tired of overdevelopment, and they would like to see this completely rescinded. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Sonia Sultan. I don't know if Sonia's here, and then we have Laura Wilson. And then after Laura, we'll start with you in a minute, Laura, because Sonia, if she's outside, she can come up. But after Laura, we have the team of Liv Estrup and Dottie Kramer. So Liv and Dottie will need you both up here. Okay, Ms. Wilson.
Hi. I wanted to tell you about my first experience that I had at City Hall, because I think it's important and pertinent to what's going on today. I had an issue with, obviously, something that was going on in my neighborhood, and I came to City Hall, and I walked upstairs, and I asked to speak to the to the planning person who was assigned to it. And I asked him for him by name, and I said, "Can I speak to Steve?" And the girl standing behind the counter, she looked at me weird, like, "Who are you to be in this office asking to speak to that person?" She literally looked at me up and down, and she said to me, "He happens to be in a meeting with a high-profile developer and doesn't have time for you." That was my first experience ever at City Hall. I had no idea what it was like. I didn't know how to come and get a chit and talk. I didn't know how to handle or navigate this, and I didn't handle my issue well in the beginning because I was upset. And I think that's what you have here right now. You have people that have been unaware of what's happening in their community and not paying attention, and all of a sudden they feel wham, 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 like they're being hit over the head with this development and this forced take the train. And have we thought about what's going to happen when the train gets here? We're not paying attention to that. Why aren't we paying attention to that? Let's get the expo here, operating, running, stop this rampant development that's going to destroy the city before the train even gets here. We're going to stop traffic going north and south, 70 to 80% of the time? And we don't know what that impact is going to do to our city. You are making a huge mistake by approving development after development after development that has no real benefits for the community. The community knows that now. The community is aware of what's going on. And we're going to do everything we can to protect the city we love.
Laura. Thank you. Thanks. I don't know, is Sonia Sultan here? Sonia? Okay, we'll hold on to Sonia's card for a few more minutes. We have Liv Estrup and Dottie Kramer, that team here. After that, Marianne LaGuardia, and after that, Louise Steiner. Okay, so this is the team of right, and
Street team.
Right, and Dottie's going to be the speaker.
That would be me.
Right,
yes.
and Liv, we just needed to make sure you were here. You can sit down, and you can either stand or sit down. It's totally up to you. But okay, thank you.
Hi, council members and everyone else this evening. I am one of those vote getters. I was out with the petition. I personally got over 200 also. And I just wanted to relive some of my experiences doing that to let you know there's anger out there in the community. I didn't have to go very far. The first couple of days we got very upset. We tried to go door to door. People don't answer their doors. Nobody answers their doors. I don't answer my door. Don't go and send your people because people are not opening their doors. Go to Bob's. Go to Bob's. Bob's was the place to be during this. It is like a town hall meeting. I had people coming just to sign the petition. A little old lady, 80 years old, came, talked to us. 10 minutes later, here comes her husband. My wife sent me up here to let you know that the city is ruined. The council has ruined this city. It used to be. I got history lessons. I got economic lessons. It was amazing. A big shout out to Bob's, first of all, for letting us do it. But also out in front of schools. Someone said here that there's lots more people that be out there voting. Well, people are busy. They're raising their children. They're taking them to music concerts, to baseball games. They're not out there. I was in front of Grant School. Kids who knew me were coming over and talking to me, bringing their parents to sign. It was amazing. Bikers going by, stopping, talking to us. Everybody is angry. They're angry. They're tired of, especially Sunset Park. This is where all the traffic is. This is where all the people are upset, and they are mad. And any politician here who thinks that this hasn't opened a can of worms needs to be paying attention, because it really has. It's amazing what's out there. The anger. You just talk about traffic in the Sunset Park neighborhood. Ooh-wee. You get a lesson. I'm telling you. Beware, because I'll be out there getting 200 more, 400 more, how many it takes to stop this. It's crazy. 7,000 more cars in our neighborhood. We can't do it. We just can't do it. We can barely get out of our street now. We're thinking of having a little traffic, what are we calling it, action ourselves, where we all need to get out of our driveways at 5 o'clock on a certain day and everybody go very slowly down the street so that we can take our street back. Because we can't get out of our street anymore. 21st between Pearl and Ocean Park. 23rd, of course, we've always known that. 11th Street, we've all known that. 20th Street, we've all known that. Now it's alleys. Now it's the streets. It's amazing. And people are very upset and very mad. So just to let you know that there are young people who are concerned. There are people raising their families who are concerned. They can't always get to meetings. My kids just are off to college. So I get to come here now. I've been at baseball, I've been at music, you may have seen me at many places. I do a lot for the PTAs, I've been in schools, and I'll tell you, people who are not listening, you think they're not listening, they're beginning to listen now. So it's out there, and thank you, Bob's. You'll see me out there again.
We know where to find you. Okay, I don't know, Sonia Sultan. Is Sonia? Okay, I'll put Sonia's name at the end. We'll see if she's there later. Okay, next we have Marianne LaGuardia, followed by Louise Steiner, and then Crystal Anderson.
Honorable Council members, I would much rather be here arguing for what would really be the highest and best use of that property, and that's putting in a soccer field. But I'm a realist. And being a realist, I'm here to say that this is just a bad project, and it should die if for no other reason, because it's a bad project. The developer basically outmaneuvered the city on this one, and we wound up with a development agreement that would have allowed the building of the huge office complex before any housing, with no penalty for not building the housing. Who knows if and when the housing would have been built. I think it's a blessing to have a do-over on this one. If anyone thought that we were just a vocal minority, think again about 15,000 signatures. As the ultimate soccer mom, I had people calling me saying, hey, do you know where I can sign one of those petitions? And I just said, drive on up. I had a drive-by at my house one Sunday afternoon. It was a lot of fun. It was good talking to neighbors again. It was good seeing people excited about their community. Nobody asked us if we wanted a traffic-choked, pollution-heavy development on that already choked corner of town. if at the same time we're being asked to conserve water, we wanted to add, I don't know, 10,000 toilet flushing office workers, hand washing too, I suppose. We're good people in Santa Monica. We drive Priuses, we walk, we ride our bicycles, we support our schools. We want to be heard. The next time a major development comes down the pike, let's have the biggest stakeholder of all sitting at the table, the residents. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Next we have Louise Steiner, who will be followed by Crystal Anderson and then Sarah Merrick.
Good evening, City Council, people who came to speak against the project, the Hines project. Democracy is dead. Yes, Princeton and Northwestern University just completed a lengthy research project on the state of our government in Washington. They found citizens are no longer represented by their elected officials. I would like to quote Armin Melkonian, one of the fearless founders of residocracy.org. Quote, regarding residents speaking out at City Council against this insane Hines project. Quote, at first it was 50 people at City Hall. They were dismissed. Then it became 100 people at City Hall, and they were dismissed. Then it became 200 people at City Hall, and they were dismissed. And now, then we did our electronic petition, and we had 600 people sign, and they were dismissed. And now 13,000 people are being dismissed. Prove to us democracy is not dead, and repeal this project. Hines, Texans, go home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Crystal Anderson, who will be followed by Sarah Merrick, and then the team of Maria Lawyer and Oscar De La Torre.
I've become a regular here in City Hall to speak up. I've written lots of papers and sent them to you. Our neighborhood got more and more depressed, more and more development once they want to stick in Pico neighborhood. We can barely move already. So what was there to do? We tried, we organized, we tried again, we spoke up. Nothing seemed to work. Finally, I hear about residocracy. Oh, that is what we need. And I was one of the collectors of signatures, and neighbors were happy and said, finally somebody is doing something. Yes, I will sign for you. I will get my daughter, I will get my father, I get other people to sign. And there is now a hope, and I hope you feel that residents here in Santa Monica, that they still want to have a livable city, that they can move around. And it's not for all these businesses to come in and for more cars and 7,000 more. We still want a livable place. We want a Santa Monica. And the growth should be so it's healthy and that it lets the future children and people live in a healthy way, that there is not so much development, so everybody can still feel safe and sound and healthy in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Sarah Merrick, and then after Sarah we'll have the team of Oscar De La Torre with Maria Loya, and after that Francis Christopher.
Council members, quit trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. The Hines project is sinking, and it's going to take with it some people that care more about money and power than they care about the welfare of our beloved city. I'm not going to rehearse the excellent arguments made by my fellow Santa Monicans. You know very well what they are. I was looking at our city seal. In Latin it says, a happy people, a happy city. Well, a half a century ago, I can't believe it. When I moved here, this was another place. Now it's all money, money, money. And if you think we're going to put up with it, I just would like to cite you the words of the old movie Network. We're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. Get rid of this Hines nonsense the fastest and cheapest way you can. If a referendum is more expensive than putting it on the ballot, put it on the ballot and freeze it right here until we can get rid of this character, this grotesque character caricature of what we were originally promised. Thank you.
Thanks. And next we have Oscar. Is Maria here? Are you on your own? Is Maria here?
She's probably downstairs right now.
I need to have her here. Well, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, so
you have 2 minutes.
I'll say what I have to say in 2 minutes. Thank you very much, members of the council and staff. My name is Oscar de la Torre, lifelong resident here in Santa Monica, proud Santa Monican, growing up in the Pico neighborhood. Many times, we have felt invisible, with all the issues that we've struggled with, issues that are hard to deal with, issues of gang violence and young people losing their lives. And many times we advocate and fight for these issues and we're invisible. One thing that I can say from working with Residocracy and all the people that you see here and the people downstairs is that Santa Monica is a better place because of this movement, and we're no longer invisible. And I think all of us here are united coming today to say that our quality of life is not for sale. That's something that we don't want to exchange. And I know that city governments and staff start looking at how do we make money. And many times people with money, when it's organized, they have a lot of power. But I think what we're learning right now, and I hope that we rescind the decision that you all made, is that organized people with justice on their side has more power than organized money. And that's really what this is all about. It's about the people of the city standing up for what they believe in against very powerful interests so that we can protect our quality of life. It's more than just traffic. It's the health impact that the traffic causes. It's not just an inconvenience, but it's something, that it's really a threat to our quality of life and our public health. The project, as it was approved, it provided many more burdens than benefits. Very little real affordable housing, no local hiring program. The traffic management plan was inadequate. The city staff should work to facilitate and implement a vision that's derived from the residents who call Santa Monica home, and not working on behalf of special interests and people that have enough money to purchase a vote or to make big campaign contributions. And that's what this movement is all about. It's not just about stopping growth and development. It's about organizing people to take back our city so that the people get to speak, so that the residents are at the table when community benefits are being made. We met with the Hines Project. The Hines Project came and talked to us and said, well, we want to talk about community benefits. And we said, well, here's a couple of ideas that we have. And they said, you know what? You have to talk to the city manager for that, because the city manager told us to tell you that the city staff is going to determine what the community benefits are. How can you have community benefits when the community that's going to be directly impacted by a project isn't even at the table? I'd like to say, someone told me one time that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, And I can say right now that we have a whole lot of chefs, a whole lot of people that are ready to cook and continue to cook the best meal to protect this city and to make sure that our quality of life is not compromised. And so I thank you all very much for your work. Do the right thing, because I know many of you on the dais, and I know that all of you are good people and all of you are hardworking people for the city of Santa Monica. And I expect you all to do the right thing, and that's to rescind the decision, because the people have spoken. And I think we'll be a better city for that. And so God bless you all, and God bless your decision, and thank you all very much for your work.
Thanks, Mr. De La Torre. And by the way, as you guessed, Ms. Loya popped in. So, yeah, we got the 4 minutes, and thank you. We have Francis Christopher, followed by Andrew Hoyer, and then Ellen Brennan.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, can you hear me? Here? This one? Okay. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, I'm going to start out by reading something from today's Santa Monica Daily Press. May 1914, Development, Referendums, and Blackmail. The archives anticipating, this is from the archives, anticipating the new transit options from Los Angeles to the sea, developers pounced on Santa Monica in May of 1914. 4 avenues to the sea stimulate building, reads one Los Angeles Times headline. Washington Avenue and Pico, Wilshire and Ocean Park Boulevards were all in the works. With the Pico extension would come a train line. Lumber pilings for a new wooden roller coaster were being pounded into the sand. A hotel was going up on the ocean front. City Hall issued $262,000 plus worth of building permits, according to the LA Times archive. Construction was everywhere. Resident petition. One councilman, H.E. Shover, found himself on the wrong side of public opinion. Residents collected 163 signatures. They only needed 154 to force a recall election for Shover's seat. It's unclear what Shover did to draw the ire of 163 Santa Monicans. The LA Times archive doesn't specify, and the story didn't appear in the local papers. Shover had replaced Mayor Dower in an election that drew 383 voters. In June, Dawood challenged Shover in the recall election, but ultimately failed to take back his seat. Shover's fellow councilman presented him with flowers following his election victory. We have a similar situation today. It's not new in Santa Monica, what we're dealing with today. I've lived here 43 years, and I'm going to read this because that's what I have to do. I do not know what part of the city you all live in or where you all work, speaking to the council, or how you get from point A to point B, but there are
Thanks,
people...
Ms. Christopher.
Oh, did I do my 3 minutes already?
No, your 2 minutes, and your time is up.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
okay. No, you don't have to be sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Andrew Hoyer, followed by Ellen Brennan and Thane Roberts.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Hoyer. I'm the president of Santa Monica Mid-City Neighbors. Tonight I am speaking for myself. First off, I'd like to speak to the developers of this project. They're obviously not here, but we are here tonight due to the magnitude of their hubris. Oh, are they? Yes, good. Now, I want to point out that if they had brought this project forward and said that they were going to build the 3 residential buildings first before they built the commercial buildings, they might not have ignited such a firestorm of opinion against them. If they had showed that they were concerned about the impacts their project was going to have on the neighborhood by providing housing first to alleviate some of our traffic problems, there might have been some in the crowd who would have gotten on board with their concept. But they made their exceptional greed clearly obvious when they declared their intention to build the most valuable building first and sell off the rest to the others. There was no promise that the other buildings would ever be built, and the community benefits my friend Jerry is so fond of may never have materialized. In all likelihood, they would have sold the building and split town with their gobs of money as fast as possible. Now for the council, you have heard from many others tonight and many more to come that they want you to either rescind this project today or put it on the ballot in November. But I challenge you to hold a special election for this development. We all know that special elections are poorly attended, but I'm fairly certain I know of 13,000 residents that will show up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ellen Brennan, who will be followed by Thane Roberts, and then Karen Comegis, it looks like.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Last week, I attended a luncheon at UCLA. Seated next to me was a doctor on the staff of the UCLA Medical School. In the course of conversation, I found that he lives in Santa Monica, so I asked him, "How do you like all the new development in Santa Monica?" He looked me straight in the eye and he said, "I hate it." I said, "Have you ever heard of residocracy?" And he said, "No." I tell you this to illustrate that while we gathered 15,000 signatures, some not turned in and some rejected, which means 15,000 human beings intended to sign that petition. In the 19 days we were working on this, we could not contact everybody in Santa Monica. We found that we were limited in time, and this man was never offered the opportunity to sign the petition, and there are a lot of people like him out there. While we were working, we found that everybody who didn't make money from development was anxious to sign the petition, and I'm guessing that people like this doctor who hate the development eroding our quality of life will eagerly vote down any referendum. So no matter how it's worded, and we'll want to know which council members voted to approve it. It won't matter what fabulous things they've done for the city in the past or how many thousands of dollars development pour into their campaign. This time, people are paying attention. Keep in mind that when it mattered, 73% of the registered voters in Santa Monica are Democrats, with only 27% as Republicans. While Hines may think that they have a chance to defeat the referendum, I'm guessing they're in for another big shock. We hope it will matter to you that residents do not want this Hines project in Santa Monica and that you will vote to rescind approval of the development agreement, letting those here and those watching at home know that you're paying attention to the residents who have spoken. We'll all be watching.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Thane Roberts, followed by Karen Cummings, and then Jim Farrell. So we don't have Thane Roberts. Karen? After Karen, hang on, Karen, Jim Farrell, and then the team of Manju Raman and Michael Feinstein. Okay, come on up, yeah. So I'll hold on to Mr. Roberts' card. Okay, Ms. Cummings?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No. Mr. Roberts isn't here, so why don't we have you?
I saw that gentleman stand up, so I was thinking he was coming up.
Yeah, and then Jim Farrell after you. Okay, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Karen Commages-Wirtz, and I live in Sunset Park. And before that, I lived in Ocean Park. And, you know, I feel that I've been here before. It's not my first time. And every time I come about development. And I come about overdevelopment. And I think that this is the first time that you've actually had people tell you through their signatures what they really want. You hear it. You hear a few voices. This is not a few voices. This is 15,000 people. Now, you talk about older people, younger people. My neighborhood is all younger than I, but they don't want this. They love living here, and a lot of them have only been here maybe 2 or 3 years, but they don't want this. They don't want more car trips. I mean, you can't get in here and you can't get out of here. And you know that. And it seems like you're not really listening to the citizens. And we trust you to listen to us. And it's also your responsibility to listen to us. And so I am asking, and most of the people here are, for you to listen to your citizens, to recognize that we have been overdeveloping the city, and it's really time to stop environmentally. And I mean, you talk about the conscious of the water, you talk about traffic and pollution. I mean, every day we double in size due to workers and visitors. Now we want 7,000 more. Car trips, that's only car trips, that's not people. So we really need to sit down and get back to the table and listen to what the citizens want. Pico neighborhood and Sunset Park are very affected by this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next we have Jim Farrell, who will be followed by, come up, Mr. Farrell, followed by the team of Manju Raman and Michael Feinstein. And after that, Todd Flora. Welcome.
I'm Jim Farrell. I live on 15th Street, Santa Monica. I'm here tonight to encourage you to rescind this development agreement. The quality of life in Santa Monica is deteriorating. That view is very widely held. As I was gathering signatures, I found that out repeatedly. Very few people rejected my the opportunity I gave them to sign the petition. It is a general feeling that the development has gone too fast, too big, and it's affecting the way that we live, and it's no longer acceptable. Please draw back with your grand plans and designs and listen to the people. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Feinstein, is Manju there? Okay, great. That's what it so this is the team of Manju Raman, and who's sitting down now, Michael Feinstein, for 4 minutes. After that, we'll have Todd Flora and then Paul Rosenstein.
And Michael Feinstein, who is PC phobic, so even though we did this before.
Okay, Feinstein, we're going to have help here to get the presentation up. Yeah, we're getting a presentation on the...
That's not my presentation now. Okay. Okay, I'll wait for you to...
Okay, welcome.
Great, thank you. So I'm here to talk about tonight's issue in a little bit of historical context. I am one of the residents who got signatures on the referendum and hope that you rescind tonight because I don't think the project was right for the community, and I think we've heard from enough residents to say that. But for those of you who supported the project before and aren't sure how we can get to a good result, I want to talk about how we get in a non-linear way to success. In 72-73, the council wanted to tear down the pier and put up Santa Monica Island. And residents organized against that and came out, as we see here at in our city hall, and just like tonight, we're out there organizing, spoke to the council, and eventually the council made the mistake. Well, they decided not to do the island, but then they said they wanted to pull down the pier. Eventually, the residents went nuts, got them to rescind that vote, and at the next election, those council members who had backed Santa Monica Island and tearing down the pier were thrown out of office. Now today we have a pier open to the public instead of a 1,500-room hotel and convention center on Santa Monica Island. A couple years later, there's a project at airport, Santa Monica Airport on the non-aviation land, 822,000 square feet at the time. Don Gerard did a little bit of early crowdsourcing by sending petitions to all the residents. We got 9,000 signatures in a couple weeks. Council had to back off. Ultimately, as you see here, in early 1990, council kills the plan. They listened to the residents. At the same time, so now what does it lead to? Bottom of the thing, we, instead of having a big commercial office project, which didn't make sense there, we have educational uses, artistic uses, and fields. And in the future, when we take control of the whole airport, we're going to have even more open space for us. Now, at the same time, we were freaked out about the council. They wanted to go ahead and put a luxury hotel at our beach club, and scared of the residents, they ended up saying, okay, we're going to put it on the ballot at least. Residents say, no, we don't want to turn that into a private beach club as well. This was a little bit of the thinking from the campaign back there. Save Our Beach, Prop S ended up passing. Okay, same thing. Now today we get historic buildings for ourselves, and we have a space that, again, the public rank and file people can use. And at the same time, as we were okay, so then we move ahead from there to 1993. Civic Center specific plan. Look at that bottom left-hand corner, okay? 300,000 square feet up to 84 feet high. We did a referendum. Again, what ended up happening eventually down the line? Now, all of a sudden, 450,000 square feet less. We don't have an inappropriate commercial office park, and we get beautiful Tongva Park. Ends up. So all of these changes, it wasn't really that clear. And where's my timer? How much I got left? 1 minute. For those of you who thought this project was a good idea and you're not sure how we're going to get to something new if you rescind, I just want to say here that when the community ends up speaking and says no to something bad, it's not always been a clear path to getting something great, but there's something about that energy when people get up and say what they want that leads in a nonlinear way to something you couldn't have even predicted. And I think that same thing is going to happen after you rescind this. It may take a few years. We may not get something great there for a while, but eventually it's going to work out better. And just like we didn't regret not having this ridiculous island, I think we're not going to regret your decision, hopefully tonight, to rescind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feinstein. Next, we have Todd Flora, who's followed by Paul Rosenstein and then Ellen Hannon.
Evening, everybody. I know most of you. I'm Todd Flora, currently chair of the Rent Board, also a member of Mid-City Neighbors and Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights, speaking tonight for myself. Unlike several of my fellow activists, I had an incredibly hard time getting signatures. I went to the meeting to pick up petitions, and several of my neighbors that I thought were certainly going to be people I was going to pin down were there collecting their own petitions. So half the neighbors I was counting on, people who are not always that involved, maybe they vote in the presidential year, for example, really getting involved and going door to door. I lost half the people I thought I was going to get. Went up to the markets, people have already signed it. I even went, I think it was at the last day was the marathon. I went up to the marathon. Every Santa Monica I talked to but 2 had signed it. 2, what a major victory during a marathon. All the people from LA said to me, gosh, you guys are lucky. I mean, you guys really get involved and speak out on development projects. All of our various planning commissions, they just build it. You know, thus we get, C on Pico. I think it is fortunate that we're very involved and even more people are involved. And I also want to say this. A lot of the resistance I feel that we've been hearing is, well, but we've worked on this for so long. Well, but we just know planning so much better. I even went to school for this. And I don't mean to disparage, but there isn't it takes a special kind of arrogance, I think, to not see that so many of the people that got involved and signed it, there was a whole working group of architects that have formed now and are speaking out against this and other development projects. People are smart. Neighbors that I did not think were involved at all, were using like development terminology, okay? These are smart folks. They know what they're talking about. So finally, I'm for sticking a fork in it tonight. Let's rescind this thing and kill it. But I certainly don't want, and I agree with what Diana Gordon said, I don't want Hines Jr. or Mick Hines, what was it? Zombie Hines coming up. And also, if I was someone's political consultant, I wouldn't want to share a ballot with this referendum.
Thanks, Mr. Flora. Next we have Paul Rosenstein, followed by Ellen Hannon, and then Jennifer Kennedy.
Good evening. It's Paul Rosenstein, and I come here tonight to urge you to reject this project and save the community a whole lot of grief and angst. You know, Michael Feinstein just listed to you some of the projects that were dreamed up that would have been really, quote-unquote, beneficial to the city and brought in a lot of money to the city, but which residents found a way to defeat one way or another. We could also mention more recently, when Santa Monica Place wanted to build a 21-story luxury condo tower on top of it, and we said no, and we said, why don't you take the roof off? And they said they couldn't do it. And we now see, you know, what's happened there. Over the years, people have found one way or another to defeat these projects, and as in many of the cases, we've often ended up, most of the cases, with something better. Now, I can understand some people on the council may find it difficult to reverse the previous vote. I can understand that completely, particularly when previous councils have encouraged this project to move forward, have made it smaller in some ways, and made changes to it, and therefore the council could have felt that the developer was doing what the council had asked. But nevertheless, this project really is out of place for this community. What really needs to be done is we need to start in the opposite direction. Instead of designing something that we think on paper looks very good, let's start with the real situation, which, as you've heard many times, is traffic. And be realistic about the traffic and then say, what do we need in this area, some of which is ripe for redevelopment? What do we need that will be consistent with the need to minimize the traffic? And I felt for a long time, I've expressed it here, that housing is what we really need there. There's 7,000 or 8,000 people who already work in the area, who maybe 5 or 10 minute walk from this area, would love to live here and to be able to walk to work or bike to work. And these are folks who then would take their cars off the streets. And you know, the 7,000 or so car trips a day that the EIR projected, even including and take into account the Expo Rail, does not account for the total traffic that all the projects in the area will bring to this neighborhood.
Okay, see, former council members, this is what happens. Okay, Ellen Hannon, followed by Jennifer Kennedy, and then Daniel Westcott.
Good evening. You know me, and now you know my sister Dottie Kramer. And I'd like you to know at home that there are 7 more of us voting, family members in Santa Monica. Her husband, 2 sons, my mother, and my 2 sisters. I believe in representative government. It's important, the cornerstone of our democracy. But when the failure to communicate occurs, it's time for the citizen voters to speak, not just louder, but with more clout, not just with numbers, but with intelligent discussion. I hope this will start tonight. Communication starts with active listening skills, not just taking a felt pen and scribbling the ideas on a poster paper at a community meeting. It involves active questioning from both the developer and the residents to talk to each other and to figure out what we want to say and do and what we need for the city. Tonight, I would like you to listen. I made it clear in the letter, the email that I sent you, and I want to make it very clear. I want no one to misunderstand me. I want this repealed, and I want it repealed tonight. And I will fight to the end for this referendum every day. I will be out there if it goes to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannon. Next, we have Jennifer Kennedy, followed by Daniel Westcott, and then Thane Roberts.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights. SMR urges you to please rescind your approval of this project this evening and not place it on the ballot in the best interests of our community. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next, we have Daniel Westcott, who will be followed by Thane Roberts.
Hi. Yeah, there isn't really a lot more to say that hasn't already been said, in my opinion. There are people that voted for this project last time that I have voted for and supported in the last election. I'm really disappointed. I went out, I spoke with hundreds of people for the referendum. I can tell you that out of hundreds, I would say there were just a handful of people that are not upset about another increase in traffic. I urge you very strongly, I know probably some of you are attached to it because you voted the first time, but if you can put your ego aside and just rescind it, if I would go down on the floor and beg you, I would do just about anything to have you rescind this. I really urge you to do it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Westcott. And Thane Roberts? Okay, Council, we have one late chit. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, Bruce Cameron for 1 minute, if he's here. Okay. Okay, Mr. Cameron. I don't think we see Mr. Cameron. No, I received information that Ms. Sultan is not going to be here. So, which is why I didn't call her card again one more time. So, okay, I don't see Mr. Cameron coming. So that concludes the public input portion of the item. Okay, council member. Oh, there he is. Hang on. Okay. Okay. We tried to quiet it. Okay. Okay.
A little hard downstairs when everybody's cheering. I didn't even hear my name being called.
That's what I said. If you wanted to, yeah, however you want to hear. Okay, Mr. Cameron.
Right. I've been following this pretty closely. In particular, I've been following the campaign filings. And I've never seen as bad a process as these folks have done. Nearly 14,000 people signed with no idea who paid for it. We still don't know. They still haven't filed their latest, sorry, I'm out of breath. They still haven't filed for the last 10 days of their period. The second thing is, what has been filed has been very disappointing. There have been so many breaches. I would really urge this council at a future council meeting to revisit.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public input portion of the item. Okay, council. Any speakers? Any motion? Councilmember McCune.
Well, before I make my own comments, let me just say that former Mayor Denny Zane called me. He is in Washington, D.C. tonight. He couldn't be here, but he will be watching, he said, on our City TV web stream. So hi, Denny. He asked me to say on his behalf that he strongly urges the City Council to rescind the approval of this project, and he congratulates and thanks all those who worked so hard to bring this referendum forward. So I was asked to say that, but then I also want to say myself, a referendum is part of the democratic process. Somebody said how undemocratic this was. It's in the California Constitution. The people have the right to a referendum. And what was the result? Well, because of the rules here in the council chamber, we don't allow applause. And the mayor pointed that out, and people therefore used jazz happy hands to express their approval. There were so many jazz happy hands here tonight, it looked like a Bob Fosse musical. So obviously there's quite a united community sense behind this referendum. And we've been asked very specifically to rescind the ordinance that enabled the development agreement so that the project won't go forward. And if it doesn't go forward, then it cannot come back to us for a full year. It has to be substantially different to come to us any sooner. And in any case, it would have to come back to the Planning Commission, not directly to the Council. So the decision here tonight is whether we are going to hear the 13 to 15,000 signatures as the voice of the community and heed it or not. And for those tonight who are hoping for drama, I'm afraid my vote is pretty predictable. When this came up on Float Up some years ago with a different council, I was the one vote no at that point because of the impacts of this project. When the development agreement itself came, I was one of the no votes, although I lost that vote. I stand by that, as I stand by my vote on the float up. And I wrote a piece for the Daily Press as to what my reasons were. We're thinking that we could get a better project on this site, and I stand by that as well. So my vote tonight here is not going to be a surprise to anybody. But I do hope that what happens here tonight shows that we are a representative democracy.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem O'Day.
I appreciate this testimony tonight, and in particular, I recall hearing the story about the person's first experience in City Hall. I felt that was really sad. It's not my experience with City Hall. The first time I was here was it was a city council meeting on an issue in front of my condo on 17th Street. And I testified and lost the decision. But I remember our council listening closely, Mayor Feinstein in particular at the time. And so I think of this city as one where people are actively engaged and involved, and I think that is true of every step of this process right up until now. In the plans we developed and in the petition signatures that everyone gathered here. As I talk to people in the community about tonight's decision, every politically engaged person I talk to says to vote to rescind tonight. And yet my policy sense for what I decided when we looked at this last time still holds true. And so in the political terms, this is a divisive issue for our community, obviously. Going to the ballot in November is going to be challenging. It means continuing some of the rather nasty rhetoric that has typified this discussion on this topic, and it means my point of view may lose here. That further, I would be challenged in the ballot, going forward electorally, and I think I want to recognize the effort from the folks who gathered these signatures, because it really is a truly impressive and commendable effort to get 13,000 signatures. I mean, gosh, we have to get 100 to get on the council, and that's hard. It really is quite extraordinary. There's those signatures too are the question I think a lot of folks are answering when they sign is, do you want this to be put on the ballot for the voters? And there's a reason too that signatures are not dispositive as a decision to overturn our vote, and why it goes to the ballot once the petition is collected. It's because that incredibly impressive 19 days doesn't reflect the full discussion and debate that happens during an election. And in my view is that many of the folks that I've talked with to explain how we reached this decision came to see my view when I talked with them about how we got to where we were. And it's that deep discussion that I think we have the potential to have here if we go to the ballot with this. And it's so while my political sense says to rescind tonight, my policy sense is why I came here to council, and why I kept coming after losing that first night. And it is in this project a clear example. I don't think this is the best project that we could have put forward. I think it has some concerns that I would have liked to have done better. But this is a project on private property, subject to land use plans that we adopted over many years, that we participated in as a community. And I further appreciated former Mayor Feinstein's examples, and particularly the pictures, because pictures are so enlightening. We don't get those as often here in council public testimony. But in each of those examples, the beach house, the airport, the island in the ocean, we were talking about public land or public space. This is private land. And the alternative here is not attractive. The project in front of us it provides housing next to transit, which is what we all said we wanted in order to protect our neighborhoods and to plan for our future. It provides community benefits that are significant. It improves the circulation by creating cut-through streets, and it adds affordable housing. Does it do enough of all of those things? Maybe not. But in comparison to what is there today and what could be built by simply reoccupying, it does a lot. Those are the local benefits. Regionally, it creates complete communities and neighborhoods that provides an example to the region for how to accommodate the growth that is coming.
Okay, I'm going to ask people to be polite.
We didn't laugh when others were testifying.
People were polite when people were testifying, so please be polite.
The traffic management requirements on this project are the most significant ever adopted in this region, to my knowledge. And they stand as an example to projects like those just a few hundred feet down the street from it, which will already be clogging this corridor. And as a result, have global benefits for climate pollution. So my policy belief is that compared to what we have in front of us as a proposal, the reoccupy strategy that I think is in front of this property owner is extremely undesirable choice for our land use policy. And so I'm going to vote to send this to the ballot.
Next speaker is Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes. I guess I'd like to thank all the residents that are here, especially the folks that brought some of the stories. I think it was really enlightening for me to hear from, especially some of my neighbors. I'm a resident of Sunset Park, and Bob's Market is I think is a key place where you do learn a lot about your city and about the activism that I think reflects throughout the city, not just in the Sunset Park area. But getting back to the project, while I agree with, I think, many of the comments that my colleague just made, one of the things, I know it's a frustrating piece, and, we're up here to make policy. And for me, I think that was one of the things that kind of drove me to disapprove the project, was really on the policy piece, because this project, the way it sits now, while I understand, your dilemma that, if it dies, the opportunity of the owner is to build something that potentially could be worse. I don't think that's going to happen personally, but who knows? But on a policy issue, the fact that we are only guaranteed one affordable 3-bedroom unit, and at our last SMER steering committee meeting this last Saturday, we had testimony from some Pico residents, and a couple of them that I happen to know, and people are being pushed out of their units today. She happens to live in a 3-bedroom unit. She's been there for 20-something years. They've been attempting to evict her I think this is the third time, and she's been successful, knock on wood, to survive 2 previous evictions. Who knows what's going to happen in this third one? If by some chance the landlord wins and she gets evicted, she's going to have to fight for that one affordable 3-bedroom unit that may be developed in this project. What are the odds of that happening? And that's what's really scares me more than anything else. I really would love to see this rejected, have the opportunity for the developers to come back, rethink it, and in my opinion, it really needs to be, if not 100% housing, real close to it, because this area really needs housing, but affordable housing. And that's where, I've been all along, and that's where I'm going to try to stick. And to me, not so much on the political side, but just on the policy side. I think it's just bad policy to approve a project that's not going to guarantee enough affordable housing in that area.
Councilmember Davis.
Well, I want to thank everyone again for coming out as well. This is obviously a difficult decision. Back in February when we heard this matter, what we were hearing was a land use matter, and it was a question about how do we give shape and form to the plans we had for this area that we adopted in the Luce, which is already 4 years old. It's hard to believe, but anyone who's read the Luce knows that this project is specifically addressed in the Luce in a form, by the way, that happens to be significantly larger than the one we voted on. I got an email today from someone who said, I would like it if it were a Tier 2 project. And under the Luce standards, it is a Tier 2 project, believe it or not, under its FAR. Now, under our Bergamot plan, where we significantly reduce densities, it's not a Tier 2 project. But when we discussed the Luce, under its current FAR, this was a Tier 2 project. It's one of those interesting anomalies, I guess, to some extent, that as we talk about land use, and I agree with much of what Mayor Pro Tem O'Day said about the benefits of the project from a land use standpoint. We talked in the Luce about finer grained streets to create a walkable neighborhood. We talked about creating opportunities for cycling, increasing open space. This project has 20,000 square foot park and a large public plaza that could host everything from farmers markets to movie nights to build community. It does have affordable housing, perhaps not as much as we would like, but it also has housing dedicated, built expressly for and dedicated to seniors and the disabled, something I've never seen a project when I was on Planning Commission or on the City Council ever have, specifically dedicated housing. It was also one of those areas where we said that our first responders, as well as people who lived in the neighborhood, would have preference in getting the housing that was being built. I don't disagree with Councilmember Vasquez that it would have been nice to see larger units, but I don't think this one project bears the burden of building every large unit in the community. I think it rests with this council to set a policy that leads to building larger units. And in fact, we have adopted those policies, both in our housing plan, our affordable housing production plan, and as we've addressed other projects. So the question becomes, we heard a lot tonight about sort of representative democracy. And I certainly believe in representative democracy. And certainly everyone tonight, I think virtually every speaker with the exception of Jerry Rubin came out against the project. But on the night when we heard this project in February, that was not the case. It's hard to represent diametrically opposed political or land use views. Some people may say I like A and someone says I like Z, and we can't represent both positions. So we are elected to listen. I like to think we do. Apparently that's not an opinion shared by many people. But we are elected to listen and then make the decision that we think is best for the community. And back in February, when this was a land use decision, I cast a vote that I thought was best for the community. I saw this as a decision between two possibilities, a decision between the proposal that was before us and reoccupation of the building. And like Mayor Pro Tem O'Day, I think reoccupation of the building would be a tragedy. It's a super block. It is a Berlin Wall. It will probably mean if not a mortal blow, it'll be a serious blow to the Bergamot Area Plan, which just won an award for being wonderful local regional planning. But no one's going to build the Bergamot Area Plan behind this building. It's 6 acres covered. by one building with no pass-through, no permeability, no streets. We'll put in sidewalks. And someone mentioned to me, well, they have to build a pass-through. And I don't know if that's true or not, in all honesty, but it's a pass-through to nowhere, much like that famous Alaskan bridge to nowhere. You would pass through the property to the Red Bull parking lot, not exactly something that's going to attract a lot of pedestrians. So having said all that, much like Mayor Pro Tem O'Day, from a policy standpoint, much for me hasn't changed. I've heard a lot of people say they would like to see a better project there. In all honesty, I don't know how we get there. We had a process. It ended up in this proposal being brought to us. And so the question is, I've heard we should send the developer back to the drawing board. And regardless of what you think about the developer, and I've heard some pretty hateful things said, asking them to go back and endure another 7 years, that's asking a lot. They're a property that isn't making them any income right now. And when we were asking them to do things like dedicate $2 million to building the buffer park, dedicate hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars over time to child care in the city. But that was back in February, and that was when it was a land use decision. And the residocracy petition has turned this into a political decision. And my criteria for my vote back in February and my criteria for my vote tonight is what's best for the city. And in terms of making this and you can laugh if you like, you don't have to agree with me.
Right, but I ask people to please be courteous. I mean, if people say there's a Santa Monica way, frankly, that is people being courteous and respectful to people having opinions on all sides. So I really do ask you to rise to that level.
Well, in any event, I don't think what we have here tonight is a land use decision. I think what we have is a political decision. And I don't disagree with the referendum process. I've gone out and collected signatures for several things. It is democracy at its messiest, but at its purest, perhaps. And so the question tonight is what's best for the city given what the situation we're in right now. And there were two things driving my decision. And the first one is that this has become a very divisive issue within the city. I think unnecessarily so, but I understand where people are coming from. President Obama was famous for saying we need to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. I hope we can all do that. But I do think that putting this on the ballot in November will run a serious risk of creating great rifts in this community that may take a very long time to heal, and that ultimately will not be beneficial to the community. The second problem I have with having this on the ballot in November is, someone mentioned this obliquely, I think, is that it will, in a sense, bring a lot of money into the election on both sides. And as someone who has and continues to be troubled by the influence of money in elections, sort of inviting the kind of bloodletting, financial and political, that would happen in November if we were to have this project on the ballot really troubles me. And so while I believe that if we rescind the project tonight, we will probably end up with a reoccupied building. I would hope that isn't the case. I would hope that there would be, as former Mayor Feinstein said, a circular path to a better result. But that's not tonight what's before us, and that's not something for this council to say at this point in time. That is essentially up to the developer. As Mayor Pro Tem O'Day pointed out, this is private property, and they hold the cards and they make the decisions about what to do with it. And if they are at the end of their patience or financial rope, they will reoccupy the building, and we will live with that. But I think that as I sit here tonight, I have to do, in my mind, again, everyone may disagree with me, what's best for the city, but I am inclined to believe that we should not have this on the ballot in November, and therefore I'm going to cast a vote to repeal.
Oh, please, now remember, folks, no applause. Okay. Well, no, that can be, yeah. Okay. Councilmember Holbrook. Yeah, we're glad the Kings are winning.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming out, and it is impressive the work that the public's done to to make their feelings known through the referendum process. I just like to talk to you a minute as someone who has lived here longer than all of you. And I think in our office, there's the whole wall is a photograph of Santa Monica. When I was a youngster, Olympic Boulevard ended at 14th Street. I only went from the ocean to 14th Street. Beyond that, it's all bean fields and brick quarries and everything else going east, clear into West Los Angeles. Things have changed in Santa Monica, and I think that every generation looked at something they hated that changed Santa Monica. I mean, you know, originally it was lots, mini ranchos and ranchos you purchased in Santa Monica, and how did those people feel when they stopped allowing people to own ranchos in Santa Monica anymore? So things have changed over the years, many, many changes. I laugh about it because I can count 24 gas stations that are gone in about the last 24 years. Every restaurant I ever went to is gone. New ones have come into place. But the other thing I want to share with you is people have asked in emails, mostly, well, why would you have voted for the Hines project, this big project? And I can just share this with you shortly, that I've been to meetings in the National League of Cities. I've been to seminars that talk about light rail and the development along transit lines. I'll just give you an example. In D.C., there was a whole seminar about 3 kinds of rapid transit lines: buses, light rail, and if you have a railroad that comes through your town, how you can put perhaps cars on it, taking people from the suburbs to the larger part, denser part of the city. To have a light rail is to die for. And while they were talking about it, the guy jumped up and went to the microphone. He said, "I'm the mayor of Dallas. I want every federal dollar I can get. I've got to have light rail. Every station has to have housing, work, restaurants, and business offices. That way people stop driving, they get out of their cars, and they can meet people and do things at the next station and so on and so forth. Got to have it, and please don't give any of it to Denver." And the mayor of Denver rushed over and said, "Oh, wait a minute, just good-naturedly, please, I got to have every one of those dollars for light rail transit and development of along those lines." So as an old-timer looking at the future, and I remember days in Santa Monica I wish would return, but they never will. I remember the Ocean Park Pier, which was 2 and 3 times larger than the little Santa Monica Pier, much more fun. It's gone. But folks, my legacy was to try to leave the city prepared to deal with the future. And there's disagreement on what that future should be, and that's healthy. There's disagreement. I want to share with you another thing that I think you should know. The rhetoric that I have received, and I'm not sure if the others received much different, has been extremely nasty. Extremely nasty. Accused of being a thief, a crook, a son of a bitch. You name it. I've been called every name in the last year serving on the city council from people who say, you know, you receive benefits, you're on the take. I've never been offered a bribe. I've never accepted a bribe. I have no interest involved with anyone who's developed any piece of property in Santa Monica ever. I have no financial interest in anything. And it's hurtful to receive emails like that over and over and over from your friends. I forwarded some to the leaders just so you know what people say at the microphone is a lot different than what they say through email to us. So it's really a disgusting climate to serve in as a city council member who's virtually a volunteer. It has become that mean and that contentious. Now you can laugh about that, and if your friends are laughing beside you, you better rethink who your friends are, because we deserve to treat each other with respect and dignity, and respecting each other's points of view. And I just want to share that that's really become a sore point. It's assumed that if you're a politician, and we are volunteers virtually, all politicians, for the first 10 years my pay was $50 a month. Okay? In the last 12 years it's been more. It's like, what, $15,000 a year now or something. But the point of it is that we need to pull together and try and work these things through. I met with several leaders privately. Sat with them and said, "What do you want at Hines?" "I don't know." "Well, what do you want there?" "I don't know. I just don't want anything there." And I'm sitting here listening to you folks tonight, and I've listened to you many times. And the ones who have said, you know, if it was a tier 2 project or if they built the housing first. Folks, the vast majority of people, activists, want zero. They don't want another car. They don't want another person in Santa Monica, and that's where they are. And they really are. They just don't want it. I don't think Santa Monica needs to be a huge metropolis. I don't think we need to do what I saw in Osaka and build hotels on top of train stations and things like that. But that's what they have to do. We have a population increase. When I was in high school, it was 13 million. It's 40 million today, and it's going to be 50 million in the next 10 or 15 years. We can't stop people in this urban area of passing through our city or driving through our city. We just can't do it. The best hope we have for traffic is that people get out of their cars and get on that train. And we're working very hard to make sure that works, and I think it will. So anyway, my decision was always based on the future of Santa Monica, to lead the future council with the dollars in the bank to continue operating six libraries when most cities have 0, to keep providing social services to people who need it, to build low-cost housing for the people who need it. And we better be careful what we do, or you're going to throw Santa Monica down a course that's going to take 10 years to recover from. Be careful what you do. And I really feel badly about the loss of trust in the city council, some of our decisions, because everyone here, and often we disagree, is trying to do the best they can for the future of Santa Monica. So I've said enough. Thank you.
Councilmember Ventura.
Well, I appreciate Councilmember Holbrook's thoughts. I too also believe that we need to prepare this city for light rail and for increased ridership to get people out of their cars. And one of the several reasons I did not vote for this project back in February is because I don't believe the project does that satisfactorily as a matter of policy. Councilmember Holbrook alluded to Denver and possibility they might get light rail. I happened to pull up a study today of the possibilities of transit-oriented development in the Denver region, and I'll just read you a quote from it. It says at least 40% of the demand for transit-oriented development is likely to come from low-income households, defined as those who live in incomes below 80% of area median income. Despite the demand from lower-income households, there is considerable risk that virtually all new development near transit in the region will be unaffordable to such households. I also pulled up something called Maintaining Diversity America's Transit-Rich Neighborhoods from the Kitty and Michael Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Policy, for those who remember the Dukakis family. And it says that our research found that transit investment frequently changes the surrounding neighborhood. The most predominant pattern is one in which housing becomes more expensive, neighborhood residents become wealthier, and vehicle ownership becomes more common. Higher income car-owning residents are less likely to use public transit for commuting. I think that the way this project is configured, it's not likely to generate a great increase in the people in those buildings of transit ridership. I think there's a problem with the way the commercial component is configured and the type of employees to be attracted to that project, the creative office types. We heard all along we desire to have creative office in this town because those are the people who don't commute in regular patterns. Well, if you're coming to work at 11 in the morning and you're leaving at 11 at night, you're not going to ride the train. You're going to drive because it's going to be easy. So we're not going to get a big bang for transit ridership out of the commercial component. And because we did not get enough affordability out of the housing, we're not going to get big bang out of transit ridership from the housing component. The folly I see is that back in February, some of us tried to propose changes to this project to make it better, more acceptable to the community, to make it better for transit ridership, to reduce the car trips. Certain parties resisted those changes because they were afraid that we'd have to go through a three-month CEQA process. Well, here we are 3 months later, and we're facing the prospects of another delay in any decision on this project until November. I think it's much better to rescind the DA, and if there is going to be a project on this site, then there's the opportunity in the next year or so to come back with something that is a better project. We heard even some people acknowledge this is not the best possible project. If there's going to be adaptive reuse, that circumstance is much more likely if this measure loses in the ballot in November than if the DA is rescinded tonight. So for that reason and many other reasons, I make the motion to rescind the development agreement.
I'll second that, but I'd like to make an amendment and see if it's friendly.
Well, and you are the next speaker. Yeah.
I'd like the motion to be for a full and unconditional repeal of ordinance number 2454, the Hines DA agreement.
Well, that's fine by me. I think the city attorney will tell us that's exactly what it is.
Just like to clarify it so everybody understands what we're voting on.
Okay, so that was the motion by Councilmember Winter and seconded by Councilmember Kuhn. Okay, Councilmember Vasquez?
Actually, I was going to make the motions, but it's okay now. Well,
Okay. And I will say that I think, as Councilmember Holbrook noted, that really we do need to aspire to greater tolerance in the community, to respect our neighbors and the diverse opinions within the community. And I truly hope that people will work towards that, because there will be many, many other issues. They may not be about development, but we will have disagreements with your neighbor, with your family, with friends on something that becomes political. So the only way we will succeed as a community is if we respect each other and if we are tolerant towards a range of views. So with that, we'll have a roll call vote on the motion.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Holbrook.
Abstain.
Councilmember Winter.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Day.
No.
Councilmember McCune.
Yes.
And Mayor O'Connor.
Abstain. So that motion passes 4-1-2.